Have you ever stopped to wonder why the dream of owning a home seems to be slipping further away for many Americans? This question has been echoing in the minds of many, especially in the year 2024. The current state of the US housing market paints a picture that is less than idyllic. Imagine a landscape where home prices are soaring higher than the tallest skyscrapers, where the dream of owning a home is becoming more of a mirage with each passing day. This is not a dystopian tale, but the reality we are facing today. Home prices, once a symbol of prosperity and a beacon of the American dream, have now become a daunting hurdle for many. The increasing costs are making it harder for potential homeowners to make the leap from renting to owning. Even those who already own homes are feeling the pinch as the costs associated with home ownership continue to rise. The once welcoming doors of home ownership are now seemingly bolted shut for a growing number of Americans. But what is behind this sudden surge in prices? The answer, in part, lies with inflation. Inflation, the economic spectre that looms large over our economy, has been subtly yet steadily pushing up the cost of everything. From the groceries we buy to the homes we aspire to own. Inflation is like a silent predator, prowling in the shadows. It erodes the value of money, making each dollar worth less than it was before. As it creeps into our lives, it quietly increases the cost of living, making everything more expensive. And when it comes to the housing market, its impact can be even more pronounced. The question we must ask ourselves is, why is this happening? And what role does inflation play in this? The answers to these questions are crucial in understanding the current state of the US housing market and its future. This understanding is not just for economists or policymakers, but for each of us who dream of owning our own home. Because the dream of home ownership, once thought to be a fundamental part of the American dream, is becoming more elusive with each passing day. Inflation, a term we often hear but may not fully understand. So, what is it exactly? In the simplest terms, inflation is the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising, and subsequently our purchasing power is falling. Imagine this scenario. You walk into your favorite grocery store with a $20 bill. Today, that 20 can buy you a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, a dozen eggs, and perhaps a small pack of chicken. However, as inflation rises, that same 20 might barely cover the cost of the milk and the bread a year from now. Why is this? Well, each year the cost of producing these goods goes up. Farmers pay more for feed, bakers pay more for flour, and so on. These increased production costs are then passed on to us, the consumers, in the form of higher prices. This is inflation at work, subtly eating away at the value of our money over time. Inflation is like an invisible tax that we all pay. It doesn't discriminate, affecting everyone who uses money as a medium of exchange. It's especially impactful on those who save, as the value of the money they've set aside decreases over time. Now, you might be wondering, isn't some inflation normal? Yes, indeed. A moderate level of inflation is considered a sign of a healthy, growing economy. It encourages spending and investment, which in turn fuels economic growth. Problems arise, however, when inflation becomes too high, too fast, destabilizing the economy and causing uncertainty. In relation to the housing market, inflation can have a profound impact. It can lead to higher mortgage rates, making home ownership more expensive. It can also drive up the cost of construction materials, making new homes more costly to build and buy. But that's not all. Inflation can also erode the real value of a home over time. So, even if a homeowner sells their property at a higher price than they bought it, they may not be making a real profit after adjusting for inflation. Now that we understand inflation, let's delve deeper into its effect on the housing market. You might be wondering, how does inflation tie into the housing market? Well, allow me to explain. Inflation is like a ripple in the pond, and the housing market is not immune to its effects. When inflation rises, the cost of everything goes up, including the materials used to build houses. This means that the cost of construction increases, which in turn pushes up the price of new homes. For those in the market for a brand new home, a surge in inflation can make this dream significantly more expensive. But it doesn't stop at new homes. Existing properties are also impacted. As the cost of living increases, homeowners may find themselves needing to charge more for their properties just to maintain their standard of living when they sell. This means that even if you're looking at buying a pre-loved home, you might find yourself facing higher prices due to inflation. Now let's talk about mortgage rates. These are not immune to inflation either. When inflation is high, lenders often increase interest rates to compensate for the diminished purchasing power of the money they'll be repaid with in the future. Higher interest rates make mortgages more expensive, adding another layer to the affordability problem for potential homeowners. But it's not just the buyers who are affected. Current homeowners can find themselves in hot water too. If they have an adjustable rate mortgage, their monthly payments could increase if inflation causes interest rates to rise. This can put a strain on their budget and make it harder to keep their home. As you can see, the housing market is deeply intertwined with inflation. From the cost of building new homes to the prices of existing properties and the rates on mortgages, inflation can make it harder for people to get onto or stay on the property ladder. The effects of inflation are far-reaching, impacting not just homeowners, but everyone. Inflation doesn't just affect us on a macro level, it trickles down to our everyday lives. This unseen force, this invisible hand, is reshaping the housing market landscape. For those dreaming of owning a home, the dream is becoming increasingly elusive. Prices are shooting up, making it harder to secure that precious mortgage. And it's not just about the first-time buyers. Even those looking to sell are finding themselves in a bind. Sure, the value of their property may have increased, but so too have the costs of living. It's like being stuck between a rock and a hard place with nowhere to turn. The ripple effect of this inflationary tide is far-reaching, touching us all in ways we may not even realize. It's in the groceries we buy, the bills we pay, and yes, the homes we dream of owning. The reality is the current state of our housing market is a problem for us all. So where do we go from here? What needs to be done to correct this situation? The answers lie in a multifaceted approach. We must address the root causes of inflation and work to stabilize the economy. This could mean tightening monetary policy, promoting growth in sectors that generate stable jobs, or even reassessing our trade policies. At the same time, we must also focus on the housing market. Strategies might include increasing the supply of affordable housing, reforming mortgage lending practices, or providing tax incentives for first-time homeowners. The point is, we can't sit idly by while the American dream of homeownership slips further out of reach for many. The solutions won't be simple, and they won't be without their own challenges. But by taking a proactive stance, we can start to turn the tide. The path to correction may not be easy, but it is necessary for the future of our nation and the dream of homeownership.